Good morning, students. Thank you very much, students, for clicking on my video. I'm your Nagini ma'am, chemistry mentor. In today's section, I'm going to discuss about delta G, delta H, delta S value is negative for adsorption. This topic is from surface chemistry lesson students, second PUC. Clear this one? So in the last previous video, students, I discussed about the topic adsorption. Okay, na? In that adsorption, I wanted to discuss about this best trick, students. Okay, na? But that video already became lengthy, so that's why I didn't discuss the topic, students. I stopped that video up to the adsorption. Now that best trick for adsorption, delta G, delta H, delta S negative, this in this video I'm going to discuss, students. Okay, nama. Now see, students, best trick for delta G, delta H, delta S negative. Okay, now this is free energy, this is the change in the free energy, this is change in enthalpy, this is change in entropy. Why these three are negative for adsorption? Okay, now I'm going to discuss, students. Okay, nama. Now see, students, actually we know that during the formation of bond, energy is released. During the breaking of bond, energy is required. Correct? We know that one. So that means during the formation of bond, energy is released. During the breaking of bond, energy is required. Clear, Nana? So what I told here, during the breaking of bond, energy is required. Clear this one? Energy is required. During the formation of bond, energy is released. Clear, students? Energy is released. So these 2 points you have to remember, students. Now I am going to discuss about what are spontaneous and non-spontaneous reactions. Clear, Nana? The two reactions I am going to discuss. What is spontaneous reaction? Are you understanding? See here, students, energy is required. During the breaking of bond, energy is required, kada. So this will call it as endothermic reaction. Correct or not? This is calling as endothermic. That means we are supplying energy to break the bond. That means endothermic reaction. Correct or not? It is endothermic. Endo means absorbed. Therm means heat. Heat is absorbed. Here we are supplying external energy. That's it is endothermic. This is exothermic. Exothermic is nothing but exo means released. Thermo means heat. Heat is released. Are you understanding, students? Endo means what? Absorbed. Okay, na? Therm means heat. So heat is absorbed here. Here exo means what? Released. What released here? Heat is released. Are you clear, students? Heat is released. So here during the formation of bond, energy is released. That's will call it as exothermic. This is endothermic. Okay, nama? Now see, students, if it is endothermic, if suppose the reaction is endothermic is nothing but energy is absorbed. Clear this one? Energy is absorbed. That's why delta H value is positive. Okay, in this case, if the reaction is endothermic, then delta H value is positive. If suppose exothermic, okay, the reaction is exothermic, then delta H value is negative. Clear this one? Delta H value is negative. Now I am going to discuss about the spontaneous and non-spontaneous reactions. What is spontaneous reaction? Spontaneous reaction is nothing but some reactions, chemical reactions, they takes place on its own. Yes or not? Some reactions takes place on its own called spontaneous reactions. Correct? Some chemical reactions takes place on its own. Clear? On its own. So such type of reactions are called spontaneous reactions, students. They takes place on its own without giving any external force, students. Okay, na? They can take place, students. That means those are called spontaneous reactions. In the case of spontaneous reactions, delta G value negative. Understanding? So delta G value is what, students? Negative. In case of non-spontaneous reaction, students, delta G value what, students? Negative. Remember these values. Next one, non-spontaneous reaction. What is non-spontaneous reaction? Non-spontaneous reactions means those reactions, some chemical reactions takes place with the help of external force. Are you following? Some chemical reactions takes place with the help of external force. Right. Definition, students. Some chemical reactions takes place with the help of external force. With the help of external force. Clear, Nana? With the help of external force. So by the external force, now see, students, what is non-spontaneous reaction? Some chemical reactions takes place with the help of external force. When we are supplying external energy, then only that reactions are taking place, students. Such type of reactions are called non-spontaneous reactions. Are you understanding? So in this case, non-spontaneous reactions, delta G value is positive, Nana. It is positive. Clear this one? Delta G here in case of spontaneous, delta G value negative. In case of non-spontaneous, delta G value positive. Clear this one? Remember, students, spontaneous, non-spontaneous, exothermic, endothermic. Are you understanding? Okay, now see, students, here just I'm giving entropy, degree of disorderedness. See, students, here particles are like this. Okay, degree of randomness is more. Here in this case, here just molecules I'm taking line wise. Here degree of randomness is less. Are you following? Here the molecules are randomly present. Correct? Here the molecules are orderly present. Are you following? So that means degree of randomness is more. In this case, randomness is more. Here degree of randomness is less. That's why in this case, students, here what we can tell, degree of randomness is more. Degree of randomness is more means delta S value positive. This you have to remember. And here see, students, in this case the molecules are arranged in the order. There is no, that means degree of randomness is less. Yes or not? Degree of randomness. Degree of randomness is less. Clear, students? So degree of randomness is less, Nana, here. In this case, degree of randomness is less. So that's why delta S value, delta S, change in entropy is negative, students. Are you understanding? Change in entropy is negative. Clear? If degree of randomness is less, what is entropy, students? That is randomness, degree of randomness. Okay, or disorderedness. Here disorderedness is more. Here disorderedness is less. So that's why the molecules are arranged in the order. That means here the randomness is less. That's the delta S value negative. If degree of randomness is more, delta S value positive. So first you have to remember this all the things, students. Then in the adsorption, what about delta G, delta H, delta S? I will discuss. Understanding? During the breaking of bond, energy is required, endothermic. It is during the formation of bond, energy is released. This is nothing but exothermic. In endothermic case, delta H value is positive, students. If heat is absorbed, positive. If heat is released, negative. Okay. And next, spontaneous reaction. Some chemical reaction takes place on its own. That means we are not doing anything. That means without help of external force only, these reactions takes place. In the case of spontaneous, delta G value negative. In case of non-spontaneous, that means these reactions takes place with the help of external force. Here in this case, delta G value positive. Are you following? Next, degree of randomness more means delta S value positive. Degree of randomness is less, we'll call it as delta S is equal to negative. Now these are all the things we are applying for the adsorption, students. Now see, students, in case of adsorption, what is happening? Okay, now see here what I discussed, that I'm going to discuss. See here, first endothermic. In endothermic case, what I told you, students, in endothermic delta H value positive. Correct? Delta H value positive. In exothermic delta H value negative. Spontaneous reaction. In case of spontaneous reactions, delta G value negative. In case of non-spontaneous reactions, okay na, in case of non-spontaneous reactions, delta G value positive. Okay na. Next, entropy, degree of randomness is more. Okay na, randomness is more then delta S value positive. Okay na, randomness is less, delta S value negative. So you remember this all the points, students, then you can easily understand adsorption. Okay na. Now see, students, this is the best trick you can easily understand. Okay, so you have to remember this best trick, you have to practice this one, then you can understand this one. See here, now I'm going to discuss about the adsorption. So in the case of adsorption, what about delta G, delta H and delta S? So I'm going to discuss about adsorption topic. Okay, now listen, students. In the case of adsorption, for example, this is the surface of the solid. It is acting as adsorbent. Okay, it is acting as adsorbent. This is the surface of the solid, and here adsorbate molecules are there. Adsorbate molecules, understanding? So they can form the bond. They can form the weak bond with the adsorb. This is which molecules? Adsorbate. Okay, Nama. So adsorbate. These molecules are adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent. So in between them, adsorbate and adsorbent, there is a weak bond, students. What is this bond? It is a weak bond. See here, they forms the weak bond. Clear? Forms the weak bond with the surface of the liquid. So surface of the solid. Sorry, Nana. So this is which bond, students? Weak bond. What is this? Weak bond. Okay, so weak bond is formed. Now first I'm going to discuss delta H value. Okay na. So here listen, students, endothermic or exothermic. Now see Nana, it is a weak bond. Correct or not? It is a weak bond. So during the formation of weak bond, that means during the adsorption taking place, okay na, that means these molecules have to adsorb on the surface of the solid. That means they have to form the bond weak. They are forming the weak bond. To break this bond, very less energy here. This is a weak bond, students. That means here, to break this bond, energy is during the formation of bond, energy is released. During the breaking of bond, energy is required. Correct? So now see, students, it is exothermic reaction. Adsorption is exothermic. Exothermic means energy is released here. That means it is a weak bond. Okay na. So that's it. During the formation of weak bond between the adsorbate and adsorbent, during the formation of bond, energy is released. Are you following? So here absorption is taking place. That means adsorption is nothing but what, students? Adsorbate is adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent. That means these molecules have to settle on the surface of the solid. That means they have to form the bond with the adsorbent. Clear? That means there is a weak bond is formed between the adsorbate and adsorbent. Weak bond is formed. So during the formation of formation of bond means what? No, energy is released. We know that. During the formation, here I already discussed. During the formation of bond, energy is released. Correct? Energy released means exothermic. That's why here during the formation of bond, what happened, Nana? So during the formation of weak bond, energy is released. Correct? So that's why it is which process? It is exothermic process. Understanding? It is exothermic process. Exothermic process means what, students? Delta H value negative. Yes, delta H value negative. Understanding? Delta H value negative. Clear, Nana? So in the case of adsorption, delta H value negative. Okay, this delta H value over. Now coming to the spontaneous and non-spontaneous. Now see, students, here in the case of these are adsorbate, this is adsorbent. adsorbent. Now for example, dust, so then setting of layer of dust particles on the furniture, we are applying any external force, students, to absorb the dust particles on the furniture? No, we are not supplying any external force, correct or not? Just it is a spontaneous reaction. That means the dust particles on its own, they can absorb on the furniture. Are you following? So that means that is a spontaneous reaction. Are you understanding, students? Adsorption is a spontaneous reaction because the dust particles, they can absorb on its own on the surface of the furniture. That's why it is a spontaneous reaction. We know that the chemical reactions which are takes place on its own, those are spontaneous reactions, correct or not? So adsorption we can consider as a spontaneous reaction. Are you understanding? So adsorption is a spontaneous reaction. Are you understanding, Nana? It is a spontaneous reaction. If it is spontaneous, what I told you, delta G value negative. So that's why delta G value, what, students? Negative in case of adsorption. Ardhaitama. And next, coming to the degree of randomness, the entropy we have to discuss. Now see, students, entropy here, in the case of entropy, Nana, this is the surface of the solid. Listen, this is the surface of the solid. Now here molecules are, these are all adsorbate molecules. Are you understanding? Adsorbate. Okay, these are all forming the bond, like this. Okay, Nama? So these are all forming the bond with the adsorbent. So what is this one? This is adsorbent. So that means before adsorption, these are all adsorbate. Okay, now listen, students. Before adsorption, okay, that means these molecules still not adsorbed on the surface. Before adsorption, these molecules, adsorbate molecules are randomly present. Correct? Randomly present. They are in the order? No. Randomly present. This which one? No. Before adsorption. Are you following? This is which case? Before adsorption. Okay, Nama? Before adsorption. That means delta S value, randomness is more, na. That's what is delta S value, students? Randomness is more, delta S value positive. So delta S is equal to positive, change in entropy positive. Okay, before adsorption. Now at the adsorption completed. Now adsorption takes place. Now what happens, students? Here these molecules are settled on the surface of the solid. Are you following, students? This is on the surface of the solid. Clear, Nana? So they forms the bond with the adsorbent. Adsorbate molecules forms the bond with the adsorbent. They settled. Now they are in the order. Are you following, students? They are in the order. That means degree of disorderedness is less. Are you following? So degree of disorderness is less. That means degree of disorderness less. That means randomness is less. Delta S value how much, students? It is negative. So that's why this is at the adsorption. Are you following? This case is at the adsorption. Understanding? It is at the adsorption. Now at the adsorption, what is delta S value, students? Delta S is negative. Clear, Nana? So at the adsorption, delta S value negative. So in case of adsorption, what happened? Delta H value negative, because during the formation of weak bond, energy is released. Correct or not? In between the adsorbate and adsorbent, there is a weak bond is formed. That's why during the formation of bond, energy is released. That's it is exothermic reaction. If it is exothermic, delta H value negative. Are you following? Negative. And next, it is a spontaneous and non-spontaneous, because it is a spontaneous reaction. Adsorption, we are not supplying any external force. Are you understanding? So that's it is spontaneous reaction. That's why delta G, so spontaneous means delta G value negative. It is negative. And degree of randomness, if it is more, this is before adsorption. Are you clear? This one, this is before adsorption, delta S value is positive. Are you understanding? It is positive. Before adsorption, all the adsorbate molecules are randomly present. So that's why here randomness is more, delta S value positive. Here at the adsorption, delta S value negative. At adsorption, the adsorbate molecules all are settled on the surface of the solid. that means they are in the order, degree of disorderness is less, that's the delta S value negative. So finally what we can say, adsorption delta G and delta H, delta S all are negative. Are you following, students? So finally what we can say in adsorption? So what we can say, Nana? Finally, in adsorption, okay, delta G, delta H, delta G, delta S, these three are negative. Are you clear this one? This is the best trick you have to practice, students. This one, if you understood this one, all the basics, this all things, then adsorption, why these three are negative, you can easily understand, students. This topic is very important for the competitive exams. I hope you understood this video. Thank you very much, students, for clicking on my video. And next, if you like this video, please like, share, comment and subscribe my channel, students. Thank you very much, students.